Alright guys, so let's get going. This is Cloud Infrastructure Compute course, or Computing Infrastructure, or IaaS as well, Infrastructure as a Services, COMP3108. So, the names of the main cloud providers are there. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform, GCP, and Oracle Cloud. There are many other providers, and more providers are still on the way. So, lots of cloud infrastructure providers, and so many jobs are out there for cloud infrastructure experts with cloud skills there. So, we're gonna start. Excuse me. So we already talked about what is cloud, and it is just somebody else's data center, and we run our applications on someone else's data center, and we rent their underlying hardware, and then run our applications. Companies run their applications. So why companies would think that why our data center, why do we have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on our data center monthly when we can just simply rent it and use their hardware as long as we want, and then install our virtual machines and put our applications, and when we are done we'll just delete our stuff from there, and that's it, we're good. We don't have to maintain our own data center. Excuse me. So I have a current project going on where or contract, we can say, where I'm responsible for Office 365, like Microsoft Intune, Azure Active Directory, and SharePoint, and Exchange Online, and then also Microsoft Azure on the other side. So Microsoft Azure, so that company is a full Microsoft shop. All Microsoft products are there. So I got lucky. Well, otherwise normally there are a lot of other vendors there. AWS, since is the top cloud services provider, so lots of jobs there. But in North America, as I've been saying before, in North America, in Canada and US, you would find more Microsoft Azure jobs. But obviously, if you go for both these certifications and scale up on both AWS, Amazon Web Services, as well as Microsoft Azure, then it would be really good for you. We're going to try to cover a lot of Microsoft, did I say Microsoft? Yeah, AWS or Amazon Web Services in this course. And if anyone wants separately to go for Microsoft Azure, infrastructure as a cloud, you want to go for that Azure Administrator certification, then yeah, I'll just give you access to all the videos and labs of Microsoft Azure as well. Then you can just prepare yourself, and yes, if you need some exam prep materials, so let me know and I'll just provide you all that. And try to give those AWS and Azure certifications as soon as possible. Lots and lots of jobs are still there, and now after vaccination is done, the market will have a huge amount of more jobs for cloud services. Excuse me. So when you go for the job market and try to apply, it's a good thing to have Amazon AWS Solutions Architect Associate certification, as well as Microsoft Azure Administrator certification. Both are tough, but if you're prepared for that, then in the job market, and obviously if you have Office 365 with it, because lots of jobs do require that Exchange Online, and SharePoint Online, and especially Intune, that really checks all the devices remotely, manages them. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and try to check out that what we are covering in this course. I'll try to that's always what I try to do, is try to add as many hands-on labs, given the all the services are provided, So that's what my effort would be. Now, if we go ahead with this, so yeah, you can deploy applications, and you can deploy your operating system. It's a full virtual data center at your fingertips. If you know what you're doing in terms of running virtual machines, uploading files securely, corporate critical files, sensitive files on the data centers, storage services, and creating databases there, and then creating their networks. So you're creating your own private local networks or lands in a public cloud. So if you're able to do all that confidently, then you should, as soon as possible, go for the certification and you put in your resume that yes, you have AWS skills, solutions architect skills, as well as and you should mention the skill names as well, right? So whatever topics you go through in terms of compute, storage, networking, databases, and all the other services. So some of those high availability disaster recovery topics should be on your resume as well. That you're comfortable in deployment and management of these services. At the end of the course, you can let me know, or whenever you're looking for jobs in the market, let me know. I'll send you a sample resume, and you can just follow that format. Also interview questions before you go for interview for the cloud jobs especially. Okay, so it's somebody else's data center that we connect to, and then there are types of cloud there as well: public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and services that are provided. The service types are IaaS, infrastructure as a service, PaaS, platform as a service for developers, and SaaS, software as a service. Now, we had been going for software as a service with Exchange Online. While SQL, we try to go for we try to use the IaaS, infrastructure as a service, and platform as a service basically is for developers that they can deploy applications without any concern about the underlying virtual hardware, that is, that you don't need to create virtual machines. So let's talk about that. Then we're going to go ahead as part of the course outline. So we're going to try to check out what else is there in terms of virtualization, how virtualization is so critical nowadays. While every company is going towards cloud, how come virtualization is still in huge demand? And when I say virtualization, so it's your company's on-premises data centers. They are all virtualized, right? So how come they are still in huge demand, or the skills to maintain the virtual environment and on-premises in your company's data centers? How come this is still in demand? Well, it is, well, much more. It was already in demand, and it's still in demand. And why? We're going to check it out. So before that, we're going to do some day one. I'll just go with that top certifications. The top 5 is still AWS. It lasts 3-4 years in different colleges when I'm just doing those courses. So 2017 I was showing that, 2018 I was showing that, 2019, 2020, now 2021 I'm showing that. So top 10 when we say, so AWS has always been there in the top 5, and then project management and security certifications had been there. So 2 AWS certifications are in top 10, and VCP, now it's the 7.0 version there, VMware Certified Professional. So when maybe you are not in the job market yet, and or you're not really following with what are the latest skills there. So when you do start looking for jobs, then you would know that what are the skills required in the market, right? So AWS Certified Solutions Architect, for this I'm just this is the whole course is about solutions architect topic. All the critical topics we will try to cover, and this is in 2020 this is the top certification. In 2021, by the end of 2021, we will know that which is still the top. So we're going to go for all the topics, and I'm going to be explaining today all what are those services and a brief introduction to those services that we should go for. So that's just topping. Now these are ridiculous salaries there. 175. You're kidding me. Okay, 149. So well, in this is full North America and Europe, wherever they are paying. You should have a lot of experience as well in the background, right? For to land on these jobs. But even if you just learned all these certifications, it's all about your confidence and which company you're going to. It depends on that as well. It's always a combination of skills that would get you a better paying job soon. So it's not just one or two skills or not one or two certifications. It's always a combination of skills. So if I go ahead and I'm going to going for all the comparisons there. But before that, I'll just go for brief stats there, and then we're gonna do the comparison. So the companies are spending billions of dollars on their cloud infrastructure. So 2018 41 billion, and 2019 43, 46, 50, 53. 2022, by 2022 they would have they're planning to spend 53 billion dollars on the cloud infrastructure. By 2023 they are saying that but maybe nearly 75%, above 75% companies would have gone to cloud. And that's not like fully going to cloud. Gone to cloud, they would still have, some of the big companies would still want to have their on premises infrastructure, although it would shrink more and more as more services, more applications, critical applications of hospitals, critical applications of insurance companies, and even the military is putting their work, or all the government departments are putting their critical resources slowly to the cloud after gaining more and more confidence year after year. If there are no big scandals like this was hacked or that was hacked, then more and more companies will go to cloud. And why should they spend millions of dollars, sometimes per month, on their own data center, maintaining their own data center? And why not go to cloud and save millions of dollars, right? While obviously Microsoft, and Amazon, they are offering their responsibility for security in as far as their underlying data centers are concerned. They're offering the full state-of-the-art security because they're spending billions of dollars. So obviously they would want to offer high availability and security for every company's critical data. So if the companies have confidence, now I've seen some job openings recently as well that have no machine in the cloud at all. They are totally on premises. So this means that the higher management is still not convinced about the cloud. For some companies, I've seen those jobs. Not a single mention of Office 365, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud. So that's really strange, but some companies have still not even thought of going there because of security and high availability reasons. And they can't afford to have slight disconnectivity and the fear. The main thing is fear. Okay, so Dong says my member license key expired. Anyone have a license key for it? Ooh, don't. Anyone has a license key? Hey, you should not be asking that in public, right? You can just ask somebody. So we're not supposed to exchange keys openly. Okay. Well, not at all, actually. Okay, guys. So, we see that with the cloud services, cloud business process services, cloud application infrastructure, cloud application services, SaaS and PaaS, platform as a service, software as a service, which is really going top with many vendors, cloud management and security services, cloud system infrastructure. This is what our course is about. It's infrastructure as a service. And you can see that by 2022, $74 billion would have been spent, or are being planned to be spent on this infrastructure as a service, right? To expand their infrastructure across the globe. When we say their infrastructure, what do we mean by infrastructure? So obviously, it would be, suppose I go for AWS data center and that would be just a picture of all the buildings yeah, so they would be just expanding their infrastructure in terms of state-of-the-art security and high availability for their data centers, and with all the racks and servers, all the technology that is available, or latest technology, and they're doing research as well how to make it even more secure. All that is going. So that's where the billions of dollars are being spent, and more places they are trying to cover, more and more countries they are trying to cover, and every nick and corner of near the business centers, all types of business centers. Suppose I go for infrastructure.aws. Now this is a very interesting link that tells the infrastructure of AWS. I'm going to share that here in WebEx chat as well as in okay, there are many areas to share that, and also in OneNote where you still need to be added. Oh, not here. So infrastructure.aws. So what that shows is the full animated globe of AWS, like animated in an animated way. They are showing how widespread they are, where their data centers are located, and how they are connected to each other. So that, and then how the cloud really works in this full interactive map. You could just see that clearly, that how cloud services are really working. So our course is revolving around using the regions, availability zones, local zones, points of presence, ground stations, network, custom hardware, benefits. We're going to try to check all that there as well. So what we were talking about, that they want to have their presence across the globe, and for that they're spending billions of dollars, right? So that infrastructure does cost a lot. So AWS is still on the top, but Microsoft is still reaching up, but it's a bit it's not very near. So when we go for the main three cloud service providers, so there's Amazon, and then Microsoft and Google Cloud. Now Google Cloud is the third one, and was as far their demand of Google Cloud skills were not that high until 2020. So now we've seen that the top certification that I've shown you already here, that has the Google Certified Professional Cloud Architect as the top certification here for 2020. So this means that companies want their employees, the developers or administrators, to have that certification, and they're sending their, or they're requiring that, hey, get Google certified. Google Cloud Platform normally offers a lot of services to developers, right? That's why it is just so much in demand. But then IaaS, infrastructure as a service, their AWS is still the best. But Microsoft is good for small to medium-sized companies. So that those companies are a lot there. So that's why, and there's no learning curve, or it's much easier to adopt Microsoft Azure, because so many Microsoft administrators and Windows administrators are there that are already having experience on Microsoft operating systems and applications. So that's why adaptability with Azure is so easier than AWS. But when it comes to reliability and stability, high availability, so then AWS is still on the top. So you can see that 2018, what was the how many services were there, and how much dollars were spent, cloud revenue they earned. So 2020 is Amazon has still earned $46 billion, and Azure has earned $23 billion, and then the Google Cloud has earned $6 billion. So way behind right now, but the skills are still a lot needed in the market. So when it comes to expenditure and where it's going, so we see that all the companies will be definitely going towards cloud. And the second thing is they're investing huge, and Microsoft has dropped the operating system, that certification after what, 11 days. On 31st, Microsoft's MCSA certification is expiring. This means that Microsoft is not really interested in investing on Windows Server 2019 and Windows servers, that were coming. So they're more interested in offering cloud services, although the operating system is there as well, but it's the cloud services they are really investing in now. Hence, my suggestion that if you need resources or preparation resources for AWS and Azure, let me know. And in last course, last year, one student just by the intersession week, one student just went for AZ-104 certification. But I don't know how he pulled it off, but he had some experience, or he was doing some labs, and then I provided some material, and he did it in intersession week. He was AZ-104 certified. And then, some other students followed him and did the AZ-104 certification as well. Then they went for AWS certification. So before they ended the program, they were certified in both these top certifications. Okay, so if we go further ahead, opportunity at the top. So not only that the companies are going towards cloud, but they have multiple clouds, right? So what is having multiple cloud mean? Multiple cloud would mean that the companies would go for the main cloud and the backup cloud. So it would be that they would just try to go for, okay, all cloud services. AWS offers a lot of services, right? Offers services of both AWS and Azure would go for the concept behind the whole cloud thing is the same, and that is to provide compute and storage and networking. There's a long list of services, right? But these are the main services that the companies go for. Databases, right? And then comes DNS, monitoring, security. It goes on, right? So this is what AWS is also providing, right? And Google Cloud is also providing. So for some companies, they would want these services, but they would go for either which one is offering cheaper services, right? Or which one's services were not have did not have any outage. So suppose Microsoft had an outage or DNS outage, I think few months ago, 2-3 months ago, and on one Monday, thousands of companies were just disconnected. Now, where I work in the company, that is totally dependent on Microsoft products, cloud products. So if I can only imagine, at that time I was not in this company, so but the companies were all clueless what's going on. We cannot work now, all our virtual machines we cannot connect. They had some companies had everything on the cloud, some companies had on-premises plus cloud. So they would just go for, so companies would see that which products are stable in and offered by which cloud. Suppose AWS is offering compute, which is virtual machines, and Azure is offering compute, which is virtual machines, but AWS's virtual machines are a bit more expensive per hour, while Azure's virtual machines are comparatively lesser expensive per hour. So companies would decide that way. Some companies having more budget would go for stability and outage information about last year's, which companies had more outages and which company had less. So Azure had more outages than at AWS, but AWS is a bit more expensive per service than Azure. So obviously there's a huge competition there. But the thing is that AWS is still on top of the cloud service providers. So companies can have multiple clouds as well. So the company may have main cloud as AWS, which means that their main or critical workload on AWS, and then its backup or non-critical workload, we can say non-critical workload plus slash backup as well on Azure. So they would have copies of data in AWS, and they would have copies of that data in Azure as well as a backup. So if in case there's a outage on AWS, if there's some billing dispute with AWS, anything could happen with one cloud. So you could just also access Azure meanwhile and access the same data from there as well. So this is just for backup, and some companies have they're using some services of AWS, and then some services of Azure, and then some services of Google Cloud Platform. And suppose they have Oracle database, so Oracle Cloud is offering bigger discounts on their own products, so they would go for some services with Oracle as well. So one company can be on multiple clouds as well, or one company could be on just one vendor. They're just connected to one vendor. So that is the scenario outside. So obviously every company goes for multiple vendors for whichever vendor is offering best services for what they need. So you would then know that normally when you go for job market and look for new jobs, so when you just search AWS, majority of the companies would mention that the candidate should know AWS and Azure. So these two are so much mentioned together: AWS, Azure, AWS, Azure, AWS, Azure. Wherever you have a cloud skills required in a job announcement, it's AWS and Azure. And Office 365 would always be there as well, or majority of the job announcements, they have that. So we're going to cover AWS, but anyone who wants to cover Azure as well, I'll just give the book trail to you. But my suggestion, as soon as possible, at the end of the course or after the end of the course, you can go for certifications of both AWS and Azure, and you must do those certifications as well. So other than the degree or diploma, you should be going for these skills as well, or certifications for that as well. So combined, it would be very beneficial for you. So companies would have multiple cloud as well. So that's what we're trying to understand here. While AWS offers the same compute, storage, networking, databases, and those services, so Azure also offers the same type of services. Google Cloud also offers the same type of services with different price tag, with different type of reputation in terms of outages, in terms of high availability, disaster recovery, and what level of sub services they are offering. So everything is compared. Now this much we have talked about, and then normally I go for also there are so many jobs, then what sort of skills I would say the combination of skills would get you a better job. So there's that Office 365 that has become a must-have certification nowadays. And so it's Exchange Online you've gone through, SharePoint we are covering now, Teams Online I will just add it from my side. It is the main tool for collaboration, but in course outline when we were putting that, so I should have added this as well, but it's just SharePoint added there. So you must know SharePoint plus Teams, especially Teams, because there's so many jobs available for this combination. And then Azure AD, so you've gone through some of that as well. Azure AD, so must have is Microsoft Office 365, at least one certification you should be done with that. Intune is there, that controls all the devices from cloud. So your company has your company employees, maybe there are 5,000 employees, and they're connecting to your company platform through cell phones, through tablets, through laptops, through desktops. So all those the inventory could be maintained in a cloud-based service called Intune, which is also called Endpoint Manager. So And Congress says in the find some more documents from. Oh, okay. You guys are talking to with each other. So okay, one certification of VMware. So this is the course you may have already done in George Brown, the VMware, but you haven't done the certification VCP 7.0. That's a must-have certification out there when you start looking for jobs. So other than that, Citrix is good to have. It's application virtualization. ITIL is for change management. When you're making changes to your environment, so you need to document it. So managing those changes, this is a certification that is a must-have. Cisco, obviously, this is something that nobody can avoid. It has to be there on your resume, CCNA. You must have gone through CCNA. If not, then keep it in your plans to do CCNA. Linux, and that is really important as well, because in cloud you will have to start virtual machines, and when you start virtual machines, so in AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, you will decide between whether you want to install in a virtual machine a Windows operating system or a Linux operating system, right? So for that, if you are an expert in Linux or you're an expert in Windows, then it's up to you. I forgot to mention that, yes, or maybe I did mention MCSA 2016 is expiring after 11 days. Anyway, so the thing is that you should be an expert in one of the operating systems, or at least put in your resume that, yes, I know how to handle Windows Server 2016, 2012, 2019, because you will find that a lot there in the companies, either on-premises virtual environment or in the cloud. Either it will be Linux and or it will be Windows, right? So other than that, there is security certification that at least one security certification should be on your resume, and that could be vendor security certification like Azure Security or AWS Security certification, or vendor neutral certifications like CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, or CISSP. So these are also very in demand. And then multiple cloud certifications from these vendors. So these are must have certifications. Especially my suggestion would be go for that. And if you need any material for that, let me know. Exam prep material, Azure Administrator, AZ104. Those who have really are keeping an eye on all the new job announcements, or good, better paying job announcements. So they are seeing, you will see there that Azure Administrator or Azure skills are written there. Then Azure has its own set of certifications, architect and security. But my suggestion is go for this. And in AWS Solutions Architect, obviously, go for the associate level. It's not easy as well. After you do this course, you should be able to give this certification, solution architect, but you just need extra material as well, so I'll provide you that, or it's all over the internet available as well. Then not only that, you should know inside out of the cloud. If you are aiming for better paying jobs, then automation is the thing. It has always been most important, one of the most important things for experienced administrators. So Terraform Certified Administrator or Chef, these are automation tools. You want some, suppose the boss says you please create 100 or 250 virtual machines there. So either you create one by one, or you go for some automation tool and then work out, first design it and test it, and then you will have the script to create 250 machines with whatever required configurations are needed, especially with DevOps. So that's just a set of certifications, the must-have ones. You should plan them before you hit the market, or you will know when you are once in the market and looking for jobs. Then you will know that, oh, okay, these all skills are required. Okay, let me start now, or you can start a bit earlier. And after this, so we already have a WhatsApp group, so hopefully everyone's added there, and for quick communication. And I'm just going to go up back to some of the topics there that we need to go for. There's public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. You will see that hybrid cloud is the environment in bigger companies with thousands of users, like 40,000 users, 80,000, 100,000, 200,000 users. Like banks, big banks are there that have a huge amount of employees. So they would go for hybrid cloud. Otherwise, smaller companies would totally go public to the public cloud, while there is a private cloud as well. So, what is a private cloud, and what's the difference between these three, and which one do you use when? So we can just talk about that as well. So suppose you have a Toronto branch here. Uh, in fact, nowadays, um, the current project where I am, or current contract. So there, when they took me to their office the day one, so they I was hoping to that they would show me a huge big data center with a lots on long lines of servers. No, it's not a big company. They just have good budget, but they're not very big. When they showed me the data center, which they call data center, so that was just two switches there, and well, they didn't have any servers at all, actually. Why? Because everything is in the cloud. So SharePoint is handling their files, and emails are being handled by Exchange Online, and conference meetings are handled by Teams. So and security has been handled by Azure Active Directory. So why would they have any kind of IBM servers or HP servers, right? Or Dell servers there? So that was just one small room which had two or three switches there, and that's all. So well, that was my first time to see a company having nothing on premises in terms of central services, totally cloud. So I've been seeing companies only with their own data centers. Even now, I mean, like now, still there are so many data centers with rows and rows of servers after servers after. Okay, so you have here Toronto branch, and you would go for. So we would have a lot of on-premises servers here as well, and those servers would have obviously these are suppose IBM physical servers there, and on top of that you have then hypervisors. Hypervisor would be installed. In fact, I was told in that do include the installation of a hypervisor, Hyper-V. So that is what I'm supposed to do as well uh, before we go to cloud. So how on-premises hypervisor really works. So hypervisor's one job is to host virtual machines and to use the full capacity of the hardware. So suppose these are suppose the physical servers. On top of that, we deploy a very small software called Hypervisor, and that gets deployed on a bare metal machine. And on top of that, you can create virtual machines. Each virtual machine has an operating system and an application, right? So that's going to be this is the environment that you see today in any company you go. If they have their on-premises infrastructure, they would have either VMware Hypervisor, or they would have Microsoft Hyper-V. So VMware Hypervisor would be ESXi, right? vCenter and ESXi. ESXi is the hypervisor name, and the enterprise grade application that handles them centrally is called vCenter application for central management. So I'm sure you have done that course there. The other batch was also saying that they have done the virtualization course, so you must have gone through vCenter and ESXi. If you want to go much more in depth before you go to the market to look for a job, let me know. I'll just give you access to that course as well. VMware, I go in depth in terms of certification objectives that we need to meet. So that's much more in depth. What you did must have been introductory level. So anyway, VMware Hypervisor, ESXi, vCenter application for central management. Then there is Microsoft, and on-premises top is VMware. So majority of the companies that you will see out there will have VMware Hypervisor, VMware virtualization solutions will be deployed there on their physical servers, while Microsoft Hyper-V would be the second choice they will have. Hyper-V is the name of the hypervisor, right? So Microsoft's hypervisor would be Hyper-V. And then there is Citrix Zen Server as well. That's Citrix Hypervisor, and then there is Red Hat Linux has their hypervisor called KVM. So those are the hypervisors you would see in the market, and this is what was there for last decade, from single physical server, single operating system, single application, to one single physical server, multiple virtual machines on top of that. So this has been going on, but now when we talk about this public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, then now you can, first of all, public cloud, yes, we understand already, and then I'll go for private cloud, because private cloud is, again, it's actually on your own company's data centers, right? So public cloud, we already know it's somebody else's data center, so that would be public cloud. And public cloud would offer their data centers across the globe, and those data centers would have hundreds of thousands of servers there, and they would offer obviously all those services of compute, storage, networking, and databases, right? So all those services would be available publicly, and you would go totally public if you're a small company, medium-sized company. Otherwise, you would have hybrid. So the first is public cloud. Yes, this is the course about public cloud. Then comes the private cloud. Now, what is a private cloud? So private cloud is actually a cloud software that you can deploy, you can download and deploy on your own hardware. So if we go for private cloud, you can just, the examples would be www.openstack.com, or Azure Stack is there as well. So what are those? So these are cloud software that you can download. It has its own hardware requirement as well. You can just, if you know the hardware requirement, you can just open a small company and get some compatible hardware of your own. If you know how to handle all the hardware, maintain the disks and RAM and CPU, then you can just download the cloud software. Now OpenStack is free, but Azure is obviously paid. So but what it is that you can download the Azure Stack or the software and install it on top of your hardware, which could be so cloud software that you can download on your own hardware. Suppose you just purchased all HP servers and or all Dell servers or IBM servers, HP, Dell, and if you know how to maintain and offer high availability, and if one disk goes down or one server goes down, you have those, you know how to maintain that. If you have clients already that asks you to, hey, maintain our environment, you can just purchase your own hardware servers and download the software, the cloud software, and simply start offering them services. Hey, connect to my cloud, and there's high availability, and we have 2 branches, and one branch is a production branch, other is a backup branch. But you can just start your own private cloud as well. The companies, they don't want to put all the data on virtual machines on cloud. They would also be interested, and big companies are doing that too, that they go for Azure Stack. AWS also has that. It is called AWS Outpost, and that is the same thing. You download their software. You have to pay them. Obviously, it's paid. You purchase the license, and the other example, AWS Outpost. So that is also not free, obviously paid, but you get exactly the same cloud experience but on your own hardware. This time you're handling your own hardware, but yes, you can create as many machines there, and you're not going to be worrying about per hour, uh, some cents per hour that you're paying. And suppose 0.0034 cents per hour for a virtual machine that has one vCPU, 2 GB RAM, and 50 GB hard disk. That's a very, very small machine. Companies would have big machines, right? 128 GB RAM, 512 GB RAM, and they have databases on top of that, and a 32 core processor, 16 core processor, 8 core processor, and maybe hundreds of terabytes of SSD disks if they need that. So that would be quite expensive when they start a machine with that kind of hardware on a public cloud. They'll be charged maybe $1, $2 per hour, and if they have hundreds of machines, that will amount to thousands and thousands of dollars per month, right? So better go for, if they can monthly or yearly pay, just get a license and get that cloud software downloaded on their own hardware. Then they can create at least as many number of machines. They just have to support themselves their own hardware. That they can purchase that kind of hardware themselves. It's going to be comparatively cheaper if well, it depends on the companies. It's not cheaper here as well, because you're still paying for your data center, right? So we can't say a comparatively cheaper cloud. Cloud is always much more cheaper than maintaining your own data center. So the thing is that you can deploy cloud software on your own hardware, and that's it. Then you can run it. You have the same cloud experience. But if anything goes down from the underlying hardware, you're responsible for that. You make a run for it and replace it right away. Cloud software that you can download on your hardware, and you can have the same cloud services experience as you would have on public cloud, right? So that would be private cloud, and public cloud is totally their hardware is there, software on top of it is there, they're hosting all that, right? And you're just paying I don't know, per hour, whatever you're using, whatever services you're using, their services you're using. So that is private cloud. This is public cloud. Then there is that hybrid cloud as well, and hybrid cloud would be that you have certain resources in the cloud and certain other resources on premises. So then hybrid cloud, you would go for some resources like virtual machines, data, like files and folders, and then also virtual machines, files and folders, that it is. Then there is databases, right? And networking resources. So you create a LAN, suppose created a LAN on public cloud, right? So you can create that, and we're going to be creating that too. So you can create that on public cloud. Now some resources like virtual machines are on the public cloud, and some of these resources, right? Some of these resources in private cloud. So that would be the hybrid cloud. And big companies they don't want to put everything on somebody else's data center. Big companies would have big budgets, so they would still keep their own data centers, and they would keep a backup there of all the critical resources. Now you can easily actually, well, not easily, but you can technically do that there's a virtual machine here, and that virtual machine has application and OS, and this could be the active machine, and this machine is actually in your local branch on premises, right? But you can have this machine's partner or standby partner, we can say. So application OS here, and this machine's passive. So that is active, this is passive or standby VM. So this is on premises, and its partner machine is in the cloud, and you can have that in Microsoft Azure. Normally I do that, I have done that lab with students, and we had one virtual machine in our laptop, and the other virtual machine was actually in the Azure cloud, and we connected each other, and then we even failed over. So that's a big thing, that not only that you're synchronizing your data here, but you're also failing over to the cloud, right? So that is something. So you can put your data up there, whatever changes are going on, and obviously you would have you would need a lot of bandwidth for that, and then you would just have all that cloud data that should be made available on the cloud as well as on premises, right? So not only that it is synchronizing. So this is sync, right? Synchronizing. But the second thing would be that you can fail over. So that's a very big feature, or that's a very critical feature. You don't then need a branch, right? Another branch to have your backup, because their data centers are everywhere, right? Their Microsoft data centers, AWS data centers, Google Cloud data centers are everywhere, or near every business hub. So you would just simply put the other passive machine, one in your data center if you still want to maintain as a company your own data center. Maybe shrunk one, but still your own data center should be there. Suppose that's your company policy. So you can have your critical machine here and its backup machine in the cloud, and all you need is good internet connection, lots of bandwidth. You can have dedicated lines available from your branch to the nearest data center of AWS or Azure or Google Cloud as well. But you can have this kind of structure. So the lab we did for Azure was we had a virtual machine in our Hyper-V, and then we simply failed over from that virtual machine to the cloud. So, well, the configuration is long, but it is technically they have offered that feature, and it works fine. The main thing is the company should have good bandwidth and high availability of internet connection and backup internet connection, like you got connection from Rogers and you also have a connection from Bell, so you could fail over as well. So that is then hybrid cloud, where you have some resources locally available and some resources in the cloud available. So when we talk about then there are service types there, and IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So this is something that we have discussed already, but I'll just go brief on this one as well. So obviously our course revolves around this IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, and that would be that you have the whole data center on your fingertips, right? Infrastructure as a service. So it's just available as a service, and you just log in with your credit card. In a production environment, obviously you need to connect your credit card, and then you will be able to go for using any of those. So infrastructure service, obviously what I just wrote again and again, it's the compute, storage, compute and storage and networking, right? So I'll just stick to this, and all other services, right? But when it comes to PaaS, so it would be just platform as a service. So platform as a service. So more for developers, and we don't have to worry about the no don't we do not have to deploy OS and virtual hardware, which is virtual CPU, virtual RAM. We just deploy applications. So developers build applications and then they deploy applications, right? And that would be the PaaS. Oops. So infrastructure service and then platform as a service, and then we can then there is SaaS, which is pretty famous, and which is, for companies, they're earning a lot because those who are offering that. So Office 365 would be the best example that even before pandemic, SaaS Office 365 was being adopted, or it is the top collaboration product by Microsoft, and Microsoft is on the top in this one. While in cloud services provider IaaS, AWS is top. In on-premises virtualization, VMware is on the top. But when it comes to collaboration, for a company to have their all resources in one package, so Office 365 is the top. And big companies, medium companies, small companies are going for that. Its rival is Google G Suite, and it's much cheaper and offering the same collaboration products there as well. So SaaS would be software as a service, and all software is already available for us to use. We need to open a user account, connect a credit card, and simply and start using the software. So this is SaaS, and obviously you've been doing Exchange Online on the SaaS product, software as a service product. So we do not have to create underlying VM and deploy OS. So we don't have to do all that. And example is Office 365. So Google G Suite. So that's the rival one. So we get that there's infrastructure service, and that's what our course is all about, PaaS, and then SaaS as well. So these are the type of the software that are these are types for cloud. And so SharePoint is still software as a service. Exchange Online is software as a service. You've already gone for, and now we're going for IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. So we talked about hybrid cloud, and then private cloud, and then public cloud as well. So these are the types, and those are the differences there. I'll just put that all in the slides, and also there. Okay, I'll just replace the already uploaded slide with this one, and I'll put it Okay, if you go ahead now, we also need to discuss. So, what's the difference then between the three top providers, right? Three top cloud services. So, those are AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, right? So, that would be your, the skills that are required in the market, and you will be asked about that if you say that, yes, I have done a cloud course and I am offering my services to a company. The company would then really dig out that what kind of vendor specific skills you have, or whatever services they have, obviously how much expertise you have in those services, so they could hire you, right? So uh, these are the three that are the best, and we're gonna try to check all the course related information for AWS, because AWS is what we were concentrating on. If you go with the top cloud provider, like this is the top provider. So once you learn all the cloud concepts from the top provider, then obviously you would be able to figure out this same concepts with different interfaces, different names of the services, but the concept in the background is still the same. So you would then understand cloud services better from the top provider, which is AWS, right? But Azure, as again and again, I'm saying that more jobs are in the market for Azure here in the market. AWS is still in the big companies. Now, this is the book that is available on Amazon. It's actually a study guide. It's to the point information about the AWS course, and this is the course code is SAACO2, and it is AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, not professional. Professional is much more complicated and tough. That itself, this one itself, associate itself, is tough enough. But this is the book that the normally students do get, and try to go in depth with all the services and read out everything, and then do all the labs. It was Certified Solutions Architect study guide, but the release is December 30, 2020, second edition. If we go further ahead, so I wanted to then compare the three types of the three top vendors there. So AWS versus Azure versus Google Cloud, that's a 2019 update, but there are many resources where they are many websites where they are comparing the services in terms of who's earning more, whose services are called what. Suppose a virtual machine in AWS is called EC2, right? And then the virtual machine in Azure is called virtual machine. In Google Cloud, it's called compute engine. So the services are there. These three are still virtual machines, but they're offered. Okay. So Amir says, are the changes or new features in AWS affect the exam? Yes. That's why latest version of whatever book is there and whatever study resources you're going for, go for that latest version. So their documentation on the website, the AWS or Azure, they keep on updating that. But yes, the books once released, then they go for newer editions of that. So they do change, and they change fast. So you would see a book coming in next 1.5 year if it's a significant change. So I normally go for the PDF version of that, and then there are updated versions also available later. So this is just a resource for this website that talks about AWS versus Azure versus Google. And in fact, on this page, I came here. It was 2020 report there, and 2021 they have just changed that to 2021. So this means they are actively updating this page. I'll just put that link here and here as well. So the three leading cloud computing vendors, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, each have their own strengths and weaknesses that make them ideal for different use cases, right? So the competition for leadership in public cloud computing is a fierce three-way race. AWS, Azure, and GCP. Clearly, these three top cloud companies hold a commanding lead in the infrastructure as a service. So IaaS is where they really lead a lot. They are having competition and platform as a service, so PaaS as well. AWS is partly dominant, so still it is dominant, but Microsoft is really gaining momentum. So according to a 2020 report from Synergy Research Group, Amazon growth continued to closely mirror overall market growth, so it maintained 33% of the market share. And second ranked Microsoft again grew faster than the market, and its market share has increased by almost 3% points in the last 4 quarters, reaching 18%. So market share of you know Microsoft is 18%, while Amazon is still way high up at 33%. And that's updated now in terms of the investment and in terms of the revenue they are earning. So Amazon, with a vast tool set that continues to grow exponentially, Amazon's capabilities are unmatched. Yet its cost structure can be confusing, and its singular focus on public cloud rather than hybrid cloud or private cloud means that interoperating with your data center isn't AWS's top priority. So AWS is totally concentrating on offering services with just the public cloud model, right? So this one, AWS just says, hey, wherever you are, you're in a small data center, you are in a big data center, I'm offering purely online, totally just online services there. Although they have their AWS Outpost, which is a software, cloud software that you can download on your own hardware. When you download that private cloud software for AWS, then yes, you can connect from your on-premises to cloud. But their focus, AWS normally focuses on, hey, our cloud features are so stable and there have been so much less outages there as compared to anyone else. So you can come, and definitely yes, they're right. If you see the data from previous years, this AWS had the least amount of outages, and when you work on AWS, it's so smooth, it's so user friendly, and it's stable. And it introduced, now I've been teaching cloud for quite some time, so I used to teach AWS a few years back and Azure as well. So whatever features were in AWS earlier, they were, many of the features were not there in Azure cloud, right? And then slowly Azure cloud starting having those features that AWS had 3 years ago, and now many of those services now are appearing after 3 years in Azure cloud as well, right? So Azure cloud is still so Microsoft is still gaining momentum, but AWS is way ahead of Microsoft. So they are the pioneers, and they still are the pioneers. They are still coming up with newer ideas, and that's amazing. So Microsoft is kind of copying a lot. So whatever exact service is there in AWS, after 1 year, 2 year, few months, it will pop up in Azure as well, exactly the same way. They would just change the name, obviously, but they copy very good, Microsoft. In Office 365, yes, no one. Others are copying Microsoft when it comes to Office 365 services. That's where it's earning millions of dollars. But the thing is that AWS is simply offering online model, right? Because it's the pioneer of the cloud services providers. So Microsoft Azure, a close competitor to AWS with an exceptionally capable and cloud infrastructure. If you're an enterprise customer, Azure speaks your language. So few companies have the enterprise background and Windows support as Microsoft. So Microsoft has been supporting big companies, small companies, medium-sized companies for decades now, right? We used to have Windows NT 4.0, then Windows 2003 came, and then Windows 2008, 2012, 2016, 2019 came. So Microsoft, big companies have been already there with Microsoft. So that's why adopting to Microsoft Azure had been much faster with companies because of their central contract with Microsoft. But when they see the performance, some companies then decide to, okay, let's go to AWS. They still are not there yet, and but they're again they're gaining momentum. So Azure knows you still run our data center, and Azure platform works hard to interoperate with data centers. Hybrid cloud is a true strength. So yes, that's where Microsoft is beating AWS. That if you want to keep your on-premises infrastructure, plus you want to go on cloud, but not get rid of your data center on-premises infrastructure, so then Microsoft Azure, yes, is good. And so Microsoft is offering this hybrid cloud model. So hybrid cloud is wherever the companies see that, oh yeah, we want some workload up there and some workload down here, we don't want to put everything there. So well, AWS is not that, it's not really going there, although there are many ways to synchronize your local branch with AWS resources as well. Microsoft is much more advanced in that. So you have, as I was saying just now, and this diagram is showing that you can have a virtual machine here on premises and its partner machine in Microsoft Azure Cloud, and they can synchronize and they can even fail over. This machine goes down, it simply fails over to the cloud machine, and this one becomes active, right? And so this works. I mean, like I've done that uh, with students there in other vocational colleges where we have to go in depth. So this is really something that I was also amazed when I was doing that the first time. So uh, well, uh, this is Microsoft's strength as well, but Microsoft is still second when it comes to cloud services provider, right? So okay, now if we go ahead with the third one, so Google Cloud, a well-funded underdog in the competition. Google entered the cloud market later and doesn't have the enterprise focus. So no, big companies don't have that Google Cloud in that, on that level, on that magnitude. So it doesn't have the enterprise focus that helps draw corporate customers, but its technical expertise is profound, and its industry leading tools in deep learning and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics are significant advantages. So yes, again, you want to run analytical applications. You have big databases there. You're working on applications, especially machine learning. So Google Cloud is the main there. Google Cloud is also famous for one other thing, which others are also offering now, but the pioneer would still be Google Cloud, and that is containerization and Kubernetes. So containers, that was always in Linux, and that was always offered by Google as well for programmers. Containers are normally lighter virtual machines that has an application that provides isolated environment for an application. So they are just lighter than virtual machines, and you can put an application on a container, and you don't have to put the full operating system there. Some operating system files are there, and containers run on top of Dockers. So you need to have a Docker software underlying, and then on top of that you put containers. But if you have thousands of containers, so this is just one container. Suppose you have thousands of containers, then you go for an application called Kubernetes, and that is where you can manage, orchestrate thousands of containers. If you have 2 or 3 containers, 20, 30 containers, 50, 60, 120, then you don't have to go for Kubernetes. You can just maintain one by one all the containers. But if you want orchestration software, central management software for containers, then it's Kubernetes. So the thing is, Google Cloud came up with that Kubernetes, and now this Kubernetes is being adopted in large scale by different other cloud vendors. So Microsoft Azure also offers Kubernetes, and AWS also offers Kubernetes. But the pioneer in that is Google Cloud. Well, Google Cloud has been the haven of all the programmers and developers, right? So since companies are, they do hire, they do want their software to be continuously developed. So they do hire lots of programmers and developers for their continuous website improvements and services. Now pretty much everything is online. Those who were not online now had to go forcefully online thanks to pandemic. So those companies are then looking for always programmers as well. Hey, we want our company's website to be much better. Before it was just a static website. Now it needs to be dynamic. We need to offer all the services that we're offering as retail in our stores. Now we have to totally go online. So they're all dependent on web developers now. Then there comes containers, and to manage thousands of containers, then comes Kubernetes. So that's what the other services have all, other cloud providers have all started offering that, but Google Cloud is the main provider of that. If we, okay, so I'll just this and okay, so okay, so yeah, that's then this site just goes on with that where right now in terms of the Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure and platform services, where is Amazon sitting in the leaders square here, and then Microsoft is way behind. You can see that 18% market share and the 33% market share. This is then the big difference there. And then this is just about cloud, right? Cloud services when it comes to. Otherwise, Microsoft is off getting or earning from other sources as well, like their other software. So so that's why it's a $1 trillion company, Microsoft. So and then Google is right behind it, following. This is 2021 stats, and they are updating that. So this link is very useful when you're going for a job. You should know that there's a comparison, because many companies will have multiple clouds there. So they would have AWS and Azure, and possibly Google Cloud as well for certain services, AWS for other services. So for example, compute services, they suppose go for Azure because they already are used to creating virtual machines in on-premises. So in Azure also you can create the same way the virtual machines. And for storage, maybe they go for AWS, and for developers in their companies, they might go for Google. So it could be multiple cloud platforms that are there, or it could be just one cloud platform. So then it just talks about pros and cons here, and then Azure's pros and cons, and Google Cloud's pros and cons, and then it goes down to vendor strengths column, and then weaknesses column. So that is really, so the first one, it says just that strength is, AWS strength is dominant market position, extensive mature offerings. Yes, that's totally true. Mature offerings. What AWS, Amazon, or what Microsoft Azure just started offering, AWS is also already offering those services, and those services have gone or improved in performance even, right? Which Microsoft Azure has just started offering. So support for large organizations, extensive training, global reach. So AWS definitely has all these strengths there. Weakness is, yes, difficult to use, cost management, and overwhelming options. So overwhelming options is one other thing that can be a pro, but that can be a con as well. So difficult to use. Well, yeah, there's a learning curve there. But it's a strong product, right? They offer all the services that which are, as they say, the wording is perfect, mature offerings. So and then Microsoft, second largest provider, integration with Microsoft tools and software. This is where it really goes ahead. Broad feature set, hybrid cloud, support for open source as well. So, but issues with documentation and incomplete management tooling. Yes, some of the tools they say that it's still in preview. Some of the advanced features which are, suppose in compute, there are advanced features in AWS, but compute means using CPU and RAM. So compute basically means about virtual machines. Suppose in virtual machines, AWS is offering a huge amount of features. When you're creating a virtual machine, lots and lots of features are there, right? So Azure has kept on adding those features from time to time, and but some features are still not there which AWS has, and incomplete also. This is true. Some of the features are actually having missing some critical sub features as well. So that was later, I've seen that they kept on improving that as well. So and then Google Cloud, what is the strength? Designed for cloud native businesses, commitment to open source and portability, and then deep discounts and flexible contracts, DevOps expertise. Yes, so programmers haven't, developers haven't, we call it, and cloud native business. Suppose you want to totally go to cloud, then Google Cloud, and cheaper than the above two, then you go for Google Cloud as well. But late entrant to IaaS market. So yes, its entrance is a bit late, but it's still the third most adopted cloud provider in the among the companies. Fewer features and services. Yes, that's, I'm teaching this now in somewhere else as well, Google Cloud, and we are missing huge amount of features. So normally I go for a mega course somewhere, and that is AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, 3 in 1. So first we go in depth with AWS, then we go in depth with Azure, then we go in depth with Google if there's a depth. So many, you create a virtual machine and that's it. It finishes after few features. And we are so used to seeing AWS long list of features, then Azure long list of features. When we come to Google Cloud, yes, lots of features are missing there. So it's like we're when you go there. So obviously it will evolve as well in a couple of years. Historically, not as enterprise focused. Yes, so true. Enterprises, big companies cannot totally rely on for all the critical services provided by Google. No, they're not there yet. So, well, these are some of the strengths and weaknesses that is very interesting to know, and it's a must know actually, because this is today's situation. This is what you see in the market, and these are the latest analysis of the cloud market, where there are so many job openings are really appearing. And again, my suggestion would be go for AWS Solutions Architect certification and Azure while you're finishing this program as well. It would be this combination would be very useful for you. Sooner you will get a better job or higher paying job. Okay, so if we go ahead, so this is you can just try to read all that. Because it's a very long list of pros and cons and from every angle. So before you go for an interview, if you just at least for knowledge sake, you should have this page really gone through. You should have gone through that, go through that, and then try to at least have that knowledge that you can show to the interviewer if they want to compare the cloud versions or cloud types there, or the vendors services related comparisons. Okay, so if we go back to this, we compared this one URL is really very important, data mission. So because they're updating that, I was not expecting them that they will update 2021 as well. I was just going to take you to the 2020 analysis of that, but they actually updated that. So normally you go to other pages and they are just like 2019 analysis, 2018 analysis, and they never bother to update that. So we can go for, I can just actually change that to 2021 update, which is, so these guys are professionals. I was not really expecting that they would do that updates. So very good comparison. In fact, I may have put that link up there as well. Okay, so let's go ahead, guys, and if we then go for the next. So virtualization on premises. Now I was told that at least we should go for how Hyper-V is deployed, and how virtualization really works. And next class will also cover that. And this is the same thing where I'm going to cover with tomorrow's batch as well, the cloud batch, your friends in the other batch. So comparison to cloud services, we've done that a decade ago. One physical server, one OS, and one application. This we talked about already. It used to be like that. Then virtualization got introduced and implemented, and then cloud services introduced and implemented. So and that's where public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud discussion came as well. So we have discussed that already. Vendor neutral cloud certification. Suppose you don't want to go for the vendor cloud certifications, and you want to go for vendor neutral. So there's certificate of cloud security knowledge. It's Cloud Security Alliance is the provider. Then there is certified cloud security professional. This is from an ISC2. So these are the this is the top provider of security certifications, ISC2, right? And Exin also certified integrator, secure cloud, and then CompTIA Cloud Plus. Now these are good. And then there is professional cloud security manager from, well, I don't know, Cloud Credential Council. Anyway, better when you spend time and money, better go for those vendor certifications which are AWS and Azure, because that's what's in the market in the name of cloud. So better not waste your time and money on vendor neutral certification. Hey, I just know cloud. Okay, well, we have AWS and Azure. That's it. So better go for that and give all your effort there. So if I go ahead, but there are vendor neutral certifications as well for learning cloud. And then there's Hyper-V here, and that is how to deploy Hyper-V, Hypervisor 1 and Hypervisor 2. So that would be just a quick deployment of that. And this would be also like demo based. You don't have to do that, because I was told that okay, when they're going for cloud, they should just have a refresher of the local virtualization environment or on-premises virtualization, and then you can then easily compare that exactly when you connect to AWS and when you connect to Azure. So you're actually going for their virtual environment, right? So Azure's virtual environment and AWS's virtual environment. So it's still virtual up there as well when you remotely connect to their data center. So virtualization, how can you do it here, and how can you implement yourself, and then how it is done on the other side. That's what we're talking about. So what we can talk about here. You know what, I can go for AWS services a bit more in terms of introduction. What are the main services that AWS is offering? That is the top cloud provider, right? And then after the break, we can I'll show you then how to deploy a Hyper-V. I'll be in my VMware workstation. I'll be deploying Windows Server 2016, and inside Windows Server 2016 I'll be deploying Hyper-V, and once Hyper-V is deployed, then we can check some of the features inside. While in next class I'll be showing some virtual machine detailed features as well, and hopefully we would be starting AWS, some of the AWS's labs there as well. So hopefully, and okay. So what I wanted to also mention also is just 22. Okay, I think everyone's there. So guys, I want to confirm that you got the access as well, right? So I would just need your ID there, so I could just share this. So later, some students say, "Oh, I still don't have access, or I never was added." So it's I do just like last class I did. So I would need your ID here to share this, the cloud OneNote as well. On this is pretty much our day one. So I would just want to. Okay, there you go. So and it's raining IDs. Okay, so I'll copy that and make sure that you. I mean, when I'm putting that here, you see your name there. So then once we do that, then throughout the course, we're just supposed to be good. Okay, Nirvana done. Jacob. Harsh. Okay, hopefully nobody's left. So, oh, John. Let's see. Got detected. Jerry. Alright, so hopefully everyone's been added, no one else is left there. So I'll just click the send link here, and you should be seeing in the shared with me area. So if I go there, Office 365, so you can go to the OneNote on the left side, and then in under shared with me you should be seeing that. Sometimes it happens right away, sometimes it takes more time, but hopefully everyone's at it. Okay, so that done. So some of the tasks need to be done in the class. Okay, well, let's go ahead and I will just try to introduce the services now of AWS. Brief intro, but those are the services that your interviewers would be really interested in. That do you know that? How in depth is that? So I'll just go here. History of AWS, and that is just, it was introduced in 2006, and they're just saying that, so it is started as a business model for their own services, right? That they wanted their own people to connect remotely to their data centers, and then they thought of expanding that to general public and to companies, to the client as well, that hey, you want to connect to our data centers, they're just sitting there, why don't you just connect and pay us some rent? And so they came up with that idea in 2006. Otherwise companies would purchase a rack server, and this is a blade server, right? It just works exactly like the rack server in terms of performance, but it's really small in size, but obviously expensive as well. And this is rack server. So now this is just it would take a long time to deploy servers and applications. That's what they're talking about. But after cloud, now you can deploy hundreds of machines in a few seconds. So that's and applications on top of that. So the time difference, so the cost difference and time difference of deployment of a production application has changed immensely, and that's why companies, they're not only they saved a huge amount of money, but they saved a lot of time as well to deploy the underlying resources. So their application that is really earning them millions of dollars, or their that applications, those which are running their whole environment, like hospital would have an enterprise application, and they would really want it to be highly available. So suppose they want to expand it, now they have to wait for rack servers to arrive when they put an order to IBM, and it could take 4 to 6 weeks for the servers to come, and then security hardening is done, and the operating system is deployed. Security hardening is done, application is deployed, and then maybe in 2-3 months you're ready to have that application. Now that's the same thing in cloud. You want to deploy that, or you want to expand that application, and in few minutes you wanted to have extra virtual machines there with whatever CPU and RAM and hard disk you want. So you just deploy it. You can just add it few minutes, hundreds of more servers, right? So 3 months against few minutes, and in lot less cost. So that's the revolution that the cloud brought, and you don't have to do all this now, which used to be done by administrators and data center admins. So it's just a few minutes, you're there with huge application. So hospitals would really need that, right? They can expand, yes, they can expand. It's highly available, yes, it is. It's less expensive comparably to the local data centers, yes, it is. So it's all benefits. So that's why um, you know AWS introduced it, and companies then adopted it on really wide scale, and then Microsoft came into that equation as well as a rival. So other than that, well, this is what I just explained what they're saying, but AWS is spread across 190 countries, and it's still expanding to more regions there, more areas. So okay, so it's just expanding, but we need to also learn that what is the cloud model, and what are regions, and we may have talked about that before as well in previous course, but obviously we would have forgotten that. So AWS Cloud operates 77 availability zones within 24 geographic regions around the world, with announced plans for 17 more availability zones and 6 more regions in Bahrain, China, France, Hong Kong, Sweden, and second AWS Gov Cloud or Government Cloud region in the US. An AZ or availability zone can host more than 300,000 servers and can be built on 2 to 8 data centers, different data centers, and among and across 245 countries it is spread. But the thing is that I'm just going to click that link as well, and we already have so total services they're offering is 175. I'm going to be explaining what is region, what is availability zone, and then how they're structured, why they're structured the way they are. And so there is that 135 fully featured services from data centers globally. So it's 175 features like virtual machine features, storage features, and networking features, database features, and machine learning features. So it goes on and on, right? So 175 features are or services are there. So, and you can deploy applications in single digit and millisecond latency. So, and with millions of active customers and tens of thousands of partners globally, AWS has the largest and most dynamic ecosystem. Customers across virtually every industry and of every size, including startups, enterprises, and public sector organizations, are running every imaginable use case on AWS. So this is just the details of 24 launched regions. What we just talked about: 77 available zones, 5 local zones, 12 wavelength zones, ultra low latency applications. We're going to talk about that, and 6 announced regions, and 2x more regions coming, 245 countries and territories served, 97 direct connect locations. And direct connect is very it's a lease line. It's so you can just connect. I want a huge amount of bandwidth from my data center to the public cloud, so you can use direct connect. For big companies, it's going to have faster connection from their data center to AWS data center. 220 plus points of presence. So POPs, we're gonna still talk about that. And yes, AWS's version of Magic Quadrant. Well, it's the one Magic Quadrant that is there, not their version and its version. So okay, I'll just go back to that infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, that infrastructure.aws, and there it's talking about regions, and then global infrastructure, regions, availability zones, local zones, points of presence, ground stations, network. Okay, before I go in detail, because we need to talk about the details here, let's take a break and then come back and talk about this, and then I'll just show the deployment as well. If this goes long, then we can put the deployment on next class, plus virtual machine details of Hyper-V, plus AWS, most probably. So let's take a 20-minute break and then come back and continue with the topic. So I'll pause this here. So we were talking about the structure of an infrastructure of a cloud service provider. So we were looking at 24 geographic regions, 77 availability zones, and more are coming. So what are regions and what are zones as well? Excuse me. So excuse me. I'll just go back here. Oops. Okay. Okay. Where's the... Really? I did not simply closed my session. Really? Session's closed. Okay, I'll just open it again. infrastructure.aws. So I'm just going to go there to infrastructure.aws, and well, there's that interactive, interactively they're showing the infrastructure there. So I'm just going to go for this, see how we do it. And this is what the whole their infrastructure, like their regions are spread across this planet. Again, this is the URL that I put before as well. I put it in the chat, and you can see that there in North America there's a lot of regions. So what are regions? First of all, there's that on the left side, regions written here, and it says just that to support its global footprint and ensure customers are served across the world, AWS maintains multiple geographic regions, including North America, South America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So unlike other cloud providers who define a region as a single data center, at AWS regions consist of multiple availability zones, each of which is a fully isolated partition of the AWS infrastructure that consists of discrete data centers with redundant power, networking, and connectivity housed in separate facilities. So every AWS region has at least 2 availability zones. Most have 3, including all new regions, and several have as many as 6 availability zones. Regions are connected to the global network with 100 Gbps intercontinental network. So what it's saying here is that a region would be, suppose we go for North Virginia here. So this North Virginia is a big physical area that they consider as a region, and the region is composed of a collection of availability zones, which is written here on the left side as well. If I click that, availability zones, so the blue dots are all availability zones. So availability zone so availability zones give customers the ability to operate production applications and databases that are more highly available, fault tolerant, and scalable than would be possible from a single data center. AWS maintains 77 availability zones around the world, and we continue to add at a fast pace. Each AZ, so what is AZ consisting of? Each AZ or availability zone can be multiple data centers, and at full scale can be hundreds of thousands of servers. So they are fully isolated partitions of the AWS global infrastructure with their own power infrastructure. The AZs are physically separated by a meaningful distance, many kilometers, from any other availability zones. But all AZs are interconnected with high bandwidth, low latency networking over fully redundant, dedicated metro fiber, providing high throughput, low latency networking between AZs. So it's just offering highly available applications, and AZ makes partitioning applications about as easy as it can be. So what we understand from all this, so first of all, if I just click that North Virginia here, so it's a physical area that is divided into availability zones, and each availability zone, so if I go ahead and try to start writing something, well, since I'm annotating, so it has stopped moving. So what happens is that this whole region is a big physical area, and in this physical area here, we have availability zone 1, availability zone 2, availability zone 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So these availability zones, let me just grab a color that can show stuff. So these are the availability zones here, and let me just grab that again. So these availability zones here and here. Now these are 2 availability zones. Within the availability zone, within one availability zone, there could be 2 to 8 data centers. So there are data centers inside, and those data centers, each data center itself can have 100,000 physical servers to up to 300,000 physical servers. So one data center can have up to 300,000 physical servers. Second data center can have up to 100,000, up to 200,000 or 300,000 physical servers. So one data center, two data center in one availability zone, but normally there are two up to 8 data centers, few kilometers apart, in one availability zone, right? Then the second availability zone, it has its own 2 to 8 data centers, and the third availability zone, it has its own 2 to 8 data centers, and data centers, 2 to 8 data centers, and each data center, we already know that they are having 100,000, minimum 100,000 servers, right? So each data center is huge. So that's how they are divided. One full physical area would be considered as region, and then it will be divided into availability zone this one, then availability zone 2, availability zone 3, availability zone 4 and 5 and 6, right? And then each availability zone can have 2 to 8 data centers, and each data center can have up to 300,000 physical servers. Now, why are they're kind of created as pairs? These two availability zones are side by side, these two availability zones are side by side, and these two are side by side, and they're all connected to each other as well, right? These dotted lines show that they are connected to each other as well. So first of all, suppose your virtual machine is so this is the availability zone and this is the availability zone, right? So your one virtual machine is here, and you want availability zone level redundancy, right? So you have a VM here, virtual machine, and then you have a VM there as well. So if there is first of all, if you create a virtual machine, suppose there are two data centers. So obviously, within one availability zone, you have 2 to 8 data centers. You create one virtual machine in one data center. Within one availability zone, you create another virtual machine in another data center within the same availability zone, right? So if there is a data center level outage, at least your virtual machine or data would be on the other data center, but it is still in one availability zone, right? So this is cheaper, that you have your virtual machine or data files and folders that you've uploaded in the servers of data center 1, and its copies are created on data center 2 within the same availability zone. So suppose there is a availability zone level outage occurs, then you have no access to your backup data as well until the availability zone itself comes up, right? So similarly, if you have a virtual machine in one availability zone and you have another availability zone with your second virtual machine, so there will be synchronization going on between that and active passive, and it can also fail over. But if there is a regional outage, region level outage occurred, the whole region is disconnected, so in that case you're just sitting. If the availability zone level outage occurs, obviously you will be able to access your data or virtual machine in the other availability zone, but if regional outage occurs, then you're still sitting and waiting for AWS to get that region up and running again, right? And then what happens later, well, then you can obviously have cross-region replication. So this means that in North Virginia, you have one virtual machine and its partner virtual machine is actually in Ohio region, or this is East US, right? East Coast. So you have one other virtual machine or files and folders here in East Coast, and then you have files and folders in West Coast as well. So in that case, you are going to have cross-region replication, which is a bit more expensive, right? But then obviously if you have regional level outage, then your data or virtual machines will be available in another region as well. So you can create your virtual machine. I'm just gonna remove all this because if we go ahead and if I click the region here, so you can see that cross-region replication could be in one continent as well. You have this North Virginia, one virtual machine or some data, critical data there, and on West Coast you have North California. You can have that data copying across the region, or you just want your data to be copied to your data is in North Virginia, but it's getting copied to European regions, any one of those regions as well, right? So you can do that too. There are two reasons that why would you go cross region. Obviously, first thing is that suppose you have all your end users, your clients here that are connecting to your data centers, but you just want to have a backup somewhere else as well, and you decide that you want to go, you can stick to East US, or you want to have your data copied in West US, West Coast as well. So that is one thing. Or if you want to have, there's another situation there that you actually have clients that are in Europe as well, and they connect to your data and virtual machines regularly. So if they are in the European region, in the European continent, your end users or your company's clients are there, then you should simply create or have a copy of your data on the Paris region or London region, Ireland region, Spain region, Milan, Zurich, Frankfurt, Stockholm, Bahrain, right? So these are or within the Europe region, you can just copy that. Why? Because your end users are there as well. So this could be also as a backup. It's there in two places across the planet. You have your critical data, but also that you have end users there, so they could just connect to their nearest region and to nearest availability zone and nearest data center and the servers, instead of connecting throughout all across this continent to the East Coast servers there. So that's where you can just put your data between the two regions across the planet as well, or across the continent as well, or within your region between two availability zones, or within your availability zone between your two data centers as well, right? So there's that. I click the availability zone here, and the availability zones are in blue dot or blue, and they are a few kilometers apart from each other, but you can have your data copied, or your running virtual machine can have its synchronization done on the other availability zones data center where the copy virtual machine is there, or the passive standby virtual machine is there. So there's data centers written here as well, and those are the data centers. They're just saying that their data centers are state of the art, and they have maximum efficiency, maximum security, maximum reliability there, because they are spending billions of dollars, and they have the latest equipment, the latest technologies for security and high availability and performance. Now there's that within the cloud, normally you have in Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, you will have this regions, availability zones there as well, and data centers inside. Then AWS has its local zones, and local zones are a new type of AWS infrastructure deployment that places AWS compute, storage, database, and other select services closer to large population, industry, and IT centers. With AWS local zones, you can easily run latency sensitive portions of applications local to end users and resources in a specific category. So that's another very good feature there that you would want to. So suppose you have your clients in California region or Oregon region, so you would want to have the local zones available, and those local zones would have the applications, the data, or the virtual machines that is there. Those local zones will put those. This is a local zone, right? So suppose your clients are here in this region, so you would not let them connect all across the continent to the East Coast servers, and you can just use the local zones as well, which are just nearest to your client, and put your virtual machine there and put your data there as well, right? So this is just for latency sensitive portions of applications. So those applications that cannot afford to be slow, And when the clients are connecting, instead of connecting to even nearby regions are a bit further, so you can have local zones, and they can connect, and they're designed to be faster and low latency networks and high speeds. The clients can connect to their applications, while the actual application may be across the continent on the other region. Excuse me. So that is local zones, and then points of presence or POPs are these that AWS has the largest global infrastructure footprint of any cloud provider in order to deliver customers' content through a worldwide network of points of presence locations. So what are POP locations? Which consists of edge locations and regional edge cache servers. So that's the main word here, cache servers, right? So Amazon CloudFront is a fast content delivery network, CDN. Now CDN means content, or abbreviates as Content Delivery Network. You want to share files with clients across the planet, then you can use CDN of Azure, CDN of AWS, CDN of Google Cloud. So this is Content Delivery Network. So what do we really achieve from that? Is that suppose there's your headquarters, company headquarters are in North Virginia, and they have shared they have a new product there, and its .mp4 video is shared, right? Or some other file is shared which is big in size as well. So clients now, they have shared it and they have given the URL of the file, right? So clients are there in West Coast as well as in Europe. So what happens is, normally, suppose you send a URL to a client in Oregon region or North California region, or anywhere in US or Canada or wherever. So the thing is that this URL will be sent to the email. The client will access that URL. So URL is just the download of this file here, right? So when URL is clicked, it is detected, first of all, oh, it's an Amazon URL. Okay. Second thing, it detects that is this file in any of the nearest POPs or POP location or point of presence location. So if the client is sitting here, so the nearest would be this, right? This point of presence, and which are cache servers, which are mirrors, we can say. Suppose you have you must have seen that when you're downloading some file there, so they say that, hey, you want to go for European mirror servers, or you want to go for US mirror servers, or Asia Pacific mirror servers. Mirror servers are just your nearest servers that have your files saved. So when you're downloading and you're in Canada, so you should not be downloading the file from European servers, right? You will be downloading files from the US servers or Canadian servers. So this is just cache servers, which caches or locally saves your data. So you can access that data, you can download the data fast from your nearest location. So first, when you click the URL, it checks that it checks the nearest POP location, that is that file there. The URL is pointing to a file. Is that file actually here? It says that, oh, it's not here. So it, for the first user, it connects to the main server, and then it downloads that file to this POP. Now, for the first user, obviously, it will be a bit slower. That it has to go there, grab the file, put it to the nearest edge location. It is also called edge location, right? Or points of presence or POP location as well. So it is downloaded for the first user. Second user, when the second user tries to click the URL as well, but this time, and second user is also in the vicinity of the first user in these areas, suppose, and the nearest point of presence is this. If this is the nearest point of presence for the rest of the users as well, when they click the URL, so they will find the file there, because the first user initiated that download from the remote location to the nearest points of presence. Second, third, fourth, fifth onwards, all the users will get the file in this point of presence, and they will download it. Also, one more thing is that this file remains there for 24 hours since the last click. So suppose 10 users have downloaded that file from the point of presence. After that, 24 hours have passed and nobody clicked it. So that file will be automatically deleted. And if then after 24 hours somebody clicks that URL, so the file will be grabbed again from the source, put here, and within 24 hours if anyone clicks it, it will stay there. If somebody still keep on clicking for a few weeks, but within the 24-hour time, then the file will remain here for weeks and months and years. And if 24 hours has passed and nobody clicked, it will be deleted automatically from here, unless you pay more to keep the file there, even if nobody clicks in it within 24 hours. So it will be there as long as you paid a little more, right? So this is how POPs work, or points of presence work, or cache servers. So that's what's written here, cache servers. If we go ahead, so this is ground stations. Now ground station is interesting and recently added. AWS Ground Station is a fully managed service that lets you control satellite communications, process data, and scale your operations without having to worry about building or managing your own ground station infrastructure. Satellites are used for a wide variety of use cases, including weather forecasting, surface imaging, communications, and video broadcasts. Ground stations form the core of global satellite networks. So with AWS Ground Station, you have direct access to AWS services and the AWS global infrastructure, including a low latency global fiber network. So what they're saying in English is that they are providing the ground station, so you could use their satellite services. You can just rent their satellite services, and maybe you want to send a broadcast on just East Coast region, and you're using their satellite broadcasting services there. So you will pay whatever they ask you to pay, and then they can let you use their satellites, right? Maybe they have rented the satellite from some other company, or they have just put their own satellites in orbit. So but they give you the ground station and they let you rent out their satellite. Okay, what do you want to do? You can do it. So that's pretty neat. And then the network here, and they say that AWS offers highly reliable, low latency, and high throughput network connectivity. This is achieved with a fully redundant 100 Gbps network that circles the globe via transoceanic cables that run over tens of thousands of kilometers and up to 10 kilometers under the sea. So up to 10 kilometers in depth, right? So major links in the network are one or several parallel 100 Gbps links. AWS is continually expanding this fiber network. For example, a trans-Pacific cable that spans 14,000 kilometers. So this is the cable that is going under the ocean and connecting two continents. This is, so AWS owns that cable. They have invested millions of dollars to get this cable under the ocean floor from one continent to another, right? So 14,000 kilometers linking Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, and Oregon. So Oregon would be this. Oh, okay, not here. So Oregon is there, and from there it is going 14,000 kilometers to this Sydney region there. So linking Australia, New Zealand, and Hawaii and Oregon. So it's currently being built, expanding the network even further. So this is amazing. It's obviously secure and fast service. So these are those submarine cables there, and that would be fiber cables, marine cables, and that would be then these are the cables that are shown underground, connecting the two continents, and this is how we get internet from across the planet. And then, well, this is how the cable is lifted up by balloons as well, and how the cable is seen from inside. Excuse me, is this. So it's a pretty solid material here, and inside this material is a fiber optic, and then it is placed this way under the ocean with a tugboat, which is just placing the cable, and it goes 10 kilometers deep as well in on the ocean floor, right? So this is how they have connected their own cable. So many other companies have put their cables as well, and they rent it out to different countries. So this is they have their own cables, and they're saying so this much investment. When we say that they have invested $74 billion, so obviously we can see that their infrastructure is humongous, and this is across the continents it's going, and across the oceans it is going. So obviously they would have satellite, but satellite normally has it will not give that kind of bandwidth. It will be much slower, but this is the fastest way to get data across the continent from by having cables installed in on ocean floors. So obviously other continents, they also have cables across. They have. There are so many other companies that have put the cables across the ocean floor. So Amazon says that we're not renting cables. We have put our own submarine cables there. So that's amazing. That's why the network is unreliable. They say that, hey, use our network. So they actually mean literally it is their network, and they have invested on all those secure cables across the planet. So custom hardware, then they just go for, okay, we have our own. So AWS global infrastructure is built on Amazon's own hardware. So it's not HP's servers and Cisco's switches. It's just Amazon's own hardware. So that is the most secure way to offer services when they say that, hey, we build our own hardware. So this means that we're not reliable on, hey, when HP will upgrade, when HP will send updates for its vulnerability that was found by somebody. So they have their own team that is so they have their own hardware manufacturing plants, and they have their own proprietary software there as well. So by using its own custom hardware, AWS provides customers with the highest level of reliability, the fastest pace of innovation, all at the lowest possible cost. So they are able to offer lowest possible cost. Why? Because they don't have to rely on somebody else's hardware. They manufacture their own hardware, so somebody else will also put their own profits there as well, right? So they then cross that, and at their cost, they are just offering the hardware. So AWS optimizes this hardware for only one set of requirements: workloads run by AWS customers. This allows AWS to bypass the complexities, high costs, low reliability, and long development cycles associated with commercially available hardware. They don't have to wait for others to, hey, did you come up with that kind of hardware with this much processors? And did the Intel send you processors already? We're waiting. We need 100,000 servers here. So instead, they're just building fast their own hardware. So that's pretty cool. And then benefits: strongest security, highest availability and reliability, fastest performance, largest, most flexible, global footprint. So they are across the globe having their own infrastructure, and this is how they are then showing their infrastructure. That one region, there's within the region, they have availability zones. Availability zones have data centers, and the data centers also have POPs or cache servers beside them, so they could download the file from their nearest cache servers. So this is the diagram that really shows their infrastructure of regions, availability zones, and data centers. So this is obviously the infrastructure detail, and then normally, well, that's what was explained, or what is explained. So there are some more points there that are that Microsoft Azure, VM, and Amazon AWS EC2 strive for greater than 99.95% availability. What they're saying here is that if there is a downtime, then they can reimburse certain percentage of money back to you because of their inability to offer high availability to their machines. There, if the customers had seen a downtime, so they would reimburse 20%, 25%, 30%, according to the downtime that they have, that they got. So AWS and Azure have experienced periodic outages that affected popular services like Netflix, Office 365, and more. So this is just, downtimes do happen. These are virtual machines, right? But these are machines, and machine, when they are run 24/7, 365, they will have a downtime as well. So the main thing is who had more downtime from the customer, on which whose data center the customer saw more downtime. So Azure, Microsoft Azure still have had more downtime than Amazon. So that's where then the customer also decide that whether to go for Azure or AWS. So how many companies are using AWS? Well, many is the answer there, and there's a URL there. Normally it's a use case. Companies are just giving, and financial services, retail, media and entertainment. There are so many companies who are using AWS, and these are pages there. So the good thing is that the companies have given their experience, right? That how they came to decide to deploy their workload on AWS, and so retail, and then media and entertainment. So all these companies have gone to use AWS. So iFlix signs up 1 million customers in just 7 months using AWS. Hey, I never knew this iFlix. Okay, so now we go ahead and try to check out, but you can learn from the use cases as well. And then this is just Azure infrastructure, 42 Azure regions. They have more regions, but again, being present across the continent a bit more than AWS doesn't mean that they can grab the whole market. There are so many factors that a cloud service provider is seen from the client side. So they have to be offering reliability and offering all the features, complete features there as well. So that's where AWS is way ahead of Azure. The rest is just so many companies are using that, and then the downtime there, that market share we already talked about, and then downtime. This is an example of just 2016, that Amazon had 108 minutes of downtime in 2016, while Azure had 270 minutes of downtime per year that it is. So obviously then those who are going for big workload migration to a cloud would go for this kind of latest information, that for last 4 years per year, what was the downtime of each cloud provider. So they would just go for those kind of research as well, that kind of research as well, right? Well, there are many certifications here, but what I'm saying is go for AWS Solutions Architect Associate, and this is the associate level. There's a foundation level as well that you can give, which is much easier, and this is Cloud Practitioner, and then there is a much more tougher level that is Professional. So we have talked about all of these. So well, then I'll switch to that Hyper-V deployment as well. Now, what's the plan here? The plan is that we're going to, as per the course outline, so I just have to go for how to deploy Hyper-V, Hypervisor 1 and Hypervisor 2, Hyper-V features, compute, storage, and networking. And Now, well, so the plan here is that so I'll just create a virtual machine here, and that virtual machine. So I'm gonna go for my VMware workstation and just go for Windows Server 2016 virtual machine VM, and inside my workstation. Then I will just install Hyper-V inside. Install Hyper-V and talk about then we and discuss the features of Hyper-V. Also, we need to go for not V. It's and then also we need to go for next class the virtual machine features in detail. What our typical virtual machine has. So then when we go to cloud, so we will understand that, okay, so isn't that the same thing we saw in Hyper-V? That's in the cloud as well, but it's just that the whole concept is different. Here we're installing it on our own hardware. In cloud, we're going to log into cloud, and then we'll be installing on there. So just like in Azure, we were able to deploy the databases. If we had more credits, we would have gone through as well. So the thing is that it's your hardware against their hardware. There you pay hourly rent, and here it's just your own hardware. So I'm going to go for Hyper-V installation, and then we're going to discuss some of the Hyper-V features as well. When it comes to Hypervisor 1 and 2, so and what does Hypervisor really do? So Hypervisor is a software that offers that hosts virtual machines. So the difference between Hypervisor 1 and Hypervisor 2 would be, so this is the OS here, and there is another machine here. So here in the other machine there's a Hypervisor directly installed. Now we can just call this as a physical machine. We can suppose this is a physical machine, and this is also a physical machine. This is a Hypervisor, this is an operating system, right? So they're directly on the physical machine, a Hypervisor, which is a small software that is installed, and directly on a physical machine there's an operating system installed, and on top of that operating system Hypervisor installed. So what is then the difference between the two settings here? This is just Hypervisor 2, and this is Hypervisor 1. So the difference is Hypervisor 1 is used in all the company's data centers on premises. So Hypervisor 1 is used professionally by companies in their on-premises environment, right? So they use Hypervisor 1. Why? Because small software called Hypervisor is installed directly on a hardware, and on top of this are deployed virtual machines. So the only purpose of a Hypervisor is to deploy virtual machines, right? And the Hypervisor 1, so Hypervisor 1 takes very less RAM and CPU for its own working. So all the hardware, RAM and CPU, RAM, CPU and storage, CPU, storage and networking is used by virtual machines, right? Hence, so the VMs perform very good when applications are deployed on them. When applications are deployed on VMs, right? So this is just the benefit of Hypervisor 1. It gets deployed directly on the hardware. It's a very small software, and for its own working, it doesn't use a lot of CPU, RAM, and hard disk, but it does use a lot of it just keeps the CPU, RAM, and hard disk available for the virtual machines. While Hypervisor 2, it is used for training purpose. So Hypervisor 2 would be used for Hypervisor. So it's the exact opposite of what Hypervisor 1 is, obviously. Hypervisor 2 is used for training purpose. And it is installed on top of an OS. So OS takes much more RAM, CPU, storage, networking for its own working. So comparatively less hardware is available for virtual machines, right? So virtual machines will not perform well if you have an operating system first deployed on a physical machine, and then on top of that you deploy a hypervisor. So this operating system will just need more CPU and RAM for its own working, hence lesser, right, physical hardware is available for the virtual machines. So it is just used for training environment, and Hypervisor 1 is used for professional environments. So if you have an operating system already installed and on top of that you're installing this, then obviously this means you're using a Hypervisor 2 or a training hypervisor. So Hypervisor 1 with there's a Microsoft has Hypervisor 1 called Hyper-V, VMware has Hypervisor 1 called ESXi, and the Hypervisor 2 from Microsoft is also called Hyper-V, and for VMware Hypervisor 2 is VMware Workstation. So, and VirtualBox is also Hypervisor 2 because they all get installed on top of an operating system. So this is just the explanation for Hypervisor 1 and Hypervisor 2. So I'll just quickly go ahead and deploy that hypervisor. So I'm going to open my VMware Workstation. I'll deploy the Windows Store 2016, and then on top of that I'll deploy Hyper-V, right? So just quickly okay, so I'm going to okay, so I'll just minimize the software. And this is VMware Workstation. Okay, so here I'll just try to go quickly for Windows Server 2016, and in fact there is, but yeah, the thing is that this is a template machine, and I already have one, so I hope it's working. Oh, it has something else installed here because it's 16 GB. I'll just quickly deploy one, and Windows Server 2016, and on top of that a hypervisor. So and the way I'm installing is just so you don't have to really take screenshot of this, um, and I'll just or if you want to follow, it's okay, otherwise I'm just explaining that as a demo. I will install the operating system later. I'm just going for that because Windows 2016, when we install, sometimes it gives a software license error, so that's not something that is what we want to see. So I'm just going for workaround right away, where I'm not giving a 2016 ISO at the start. I'll install the operating system later. I'm just gonna click next, and then it's Windows Server 2016 that I'm going for, and next. So I'll just go for GB-19Jan2021 and Hyper-V. And okay, do I have no space? Okay, I have on D drive. So I'll just go for D drive here, next, and 200, single file, next, and I'll try to give more RAM here, so 16 GB, so it can just go faster. Now I have not put an operating system yet, so once it is created, I'll just turn it on. 2019, yes, you're right, actually. Do I have 2019? Let me check if I have 2019 ISO. I think I downloaded, I guess. Oh. I'll just quickly download, I think I have links somewhere, and just drag that. It's gonna take 4 or 5 minutes. No, John. It's optional. You want to follow through, it's okay. If you don't want to know, it's not compulsory. On the other side, I'm opening that link. I'll just quickly download the 2019. So there's a download link. I put the download link here if anyone wants to go for 2019 here. And down. I'll save some space here quickly. So I'll just so it's the 2019s and ISO, continue. Oh, it's really channel. Okay. Oh, seriously, working with us. Yeah. Oh man. 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I like to hear. No, I don't want to. And which language? And I'll just quickly download it. Software. So it's it's just a few minutes. So we'll continue with that in next class to just explore more virtual machine options. Seven minutes. It goes faster. Really? Okay. So 6, 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. So yeah, what's the difference between Hyper-V version and normal version? Okay, so there's a question. What is the difference between Hyper-V version and normal? So oh, okay. So Hyper-V version is that you can get ISO that is purely just Hyper-V. So and normal version is that this is a GUI operating system, and on top of that you can still install that Hyper-V. But Hyper-V version is that it's just direct Hyper-V. So Hyper-V version is we can call Hypervisor 1, and normal version is Hypervisor 2. It's an OS actually. Normal is just OS. And one of the features is Hyper-V as well. And Hyper-V can be directly deployed on top of a hardware. So that's the principle. So while this is going on, in this slide I'll check out. So Hyper-V features of compute. So obviously Hyper-V is also just offering what we're going to, all the features that you will see in the cloud, but not all. Cloud will have a really long list of features for compute, storage, and networking. So compute would be the CPU, RAM, and CPU, right? And RAM. Storage, obviously, the HDD, SSD, and virtual volumes. So, and software rate. And in networking, the virtual switch and virtual so virtual switch, virtual NIC is there, and so those are the networking components of a hypervisor that gets installed. So it's wow, I thought I had a powerful internet connection. 4 minutes, but it's a 4.95 GB file. Oh, okay. That's why. It is okay, 343434 it's doing. I think it's gonna shoot up. Okay, 2 minutes. Wow. So it's 5 GB. Normally, it's even if it's 5 GB. Well, right now I think well, throughout the day we use. Everyone's using internet now, so the load is so heavy. One minute. So the plan is that when we deploy the virtual machine, so the thing is that the processor needs to have the virtualization option enabled, and then we can deploy Hyper-V. So okay, nearly done. So I'll put that link, copy. So I'll just put that viewer work session quickly, and I'll start with the Great Virtual Machine. Next. Now I hope that that error does not come for 2019. Hopefully it's okay. So 2019 is there now, and next I'll go for what did I just do? Data center core and standard core. I wanted to go for the GUI installation, but so okay, that's not actually 6 GB, and how can it be just core? So version of Windows to install. Okay, data center. Although I was not going for core, I was not planning to go for core. So if that just takes a little, time, I don't know why it downloaded that. I'll just check what's going on. Why is it offering core? It didn't say anywhere, right? So trial version. Trial experience 2019. You can download a new feature on demand for server core. The app compatibility FOD. Okay, contains additional features from the desktop experience to improve the availability of software for apps and tools. So they they offer the core version, and it's evolve server fresh. They don't even mention the core here. Oh well, but they say that you can just add another feature here called. So I'll just start this, and I'll also start the 2016, so we could just have that 2616 also available on time. So Hyper-V GB. Control for 200. Next, and I'll try to just check it out right away if it's going for. So it detects as so if it is just core, then that would not really be smooth. Oh, okay. So it says core just for the VMware workstations. Seriously. I'll go for the data center evaluation desktop experience. That's it. And next, go. So the GUI is there. It's just saying it's more. Oh, seriously. Okay. So it went for that same bug that was coming in 2016 as well. I'll just simply power it off and go for that workaround for 2019 as well. So it did not really improve Windows 2019 too. So I'll just delete that and quickly go for home version again, create new virtual machine. Yeah, you can use 2016 as well. It's the same thing. What I'm doing here with 2019, you can use with 2016. It's exactly the same way. So I'll go for I will install the operating system later. This is just a workaround to avoid that software license error. And next, so it's 2019. Oh, you can use 2016. It's the exact same way. So the way I'm creating that, if you're using 2016, so no differences at all. Windows Server 2019 GB dash 19Jan2021, and I haven't given the path of that Windows, so I'll just go for next. 200 GB single file, customize hardware, and 2016 also gives the same error that 2019 gave. I should have just gone for the workaround. So I'll start, but I didn't give the ISO path, so it's just going to boot from network. It's gonna ask this, and while it is asking this, now I'm gonna give the path of the 2019, and then it's gonna just go ahead, and it should not give that error. When you go to the path to give the path of CDVD, make sure that these two are checkboxes are checked. Use ISO image file, and I'll just simply quickly go there where I have my so I'll just put it on restart now, restart guest. So it just says that I need to put click on any of the keyboard key. So I'll just restart once more, and then now I'm pressing the key on the keyboard, any key. So this is the way 2016 also worked with this workaround within Waiver work session. So I'm just hoping and praying that it works with this 2019 as well. Okay, so it went ahead. Didn't ask for that GUI, but it's gonna ask, I think, later. So I'll just change it to English Canada. Now it should ask which one. So I'll just go for data center again. Desktop experience, data center evaluation. So this is exactly the same in 2016 as well. Custom, and then next. So once the installation is done, one thing that I need to check is if I right click here and go to settings of the machine here, so there's a processor. Yeah, this needs to be checked. Virtualize Intel VTX, EPT, or AMD VRVI. So I'll just take a screenshot of that. And put it here. That make sure whether 2016 or 2019, make sure Intel VT option is checked for processor of virtual machine. Okay. So yeah, this option has to be checked, which can be checked only if it is shut down. So once it is installed, then I'll just simply shut it down and check it, and then start it again. Okay, so it's trying to get back now. Okay, so we're there, and I'll just go for the class password here. I gave 16 GB RAM here for this machine, so it went fast. Small ABC, WMC shape 123, dot shape 123, small ABC, WMC shape 123, dot shape 123. And then so we log into 2019. If it's different than 2016, then I'll just show you on 2016 as well, which is already a machine that is, I have a machine there already, which I can just start and show you that what's the difference. Otherwise, there should be no difference, not a like any significant difference there. So I'll press the yes on this blue bar, and so the main thing there was that that I did not go for this processor option, virtualize Intel VT. They've introduced Windows Admin Center, that from where you can just centrally manage local machines as well as cloud machines. Okay, so I'm just going to install the VMware tools. So right click here and there's install VMware tools, because if I need to copy something inside or outside, and also that the screen should be a bit bigger, so then I'll just simply go for this. So VMware tools popped up here, or we can go to the yellow folder or the file explorer and then go to the DVD and double click that. So it's gonna ask for a restart after we go next, finish. So it's next, just install. So instead of restart, I'll shut down, because I need to change the option on the processor to enable virtualization on this machine. So I'll click finish and it will ask for restart. In service restart, I'll just simply shut down. So right click and shut down. And click continue. So once it is shut down, then I'll go for settings, and then go to processors. So it's exactly the same thing. You can do it in Windows 2016 as well if you have that. So I'm just selecting this option, and that's it. So press OK, and then I'll start it again now. Okay, then Control Delete. Okay, now we're ready to deploy the Hyper-V. So again, process should be similar to 2016. I'm going to close this, and so in dashboard, the Hyper-V is a role that needs to be installed. So I'm going to click that add roles and features and click next. Role based or feature based installation, click next. Well, there's that weird name of Windows here with random IP, which is okay. Whatever the name, whatever the IP, I'll click next. So here all the features are there, but I'll go for the Hyper-V, this feature, right? So if that Intel VT option is not selected, then once you select this feature, it gives an error if that option in the processor is not selected. If it's selected, so it's supposed to simply, once you click add features, it should just simply get added, and it should not give you an error after this. Add features, and yes, it gets added. So that processor Intel VT has to be selected for if you don't want to see any error here. And then we can click next. Nothing in the features, so I'll click next now. Nothing here, click next. Now here it says Ethernet 0 Intel R82574L gigabit network connection. So what happens is that here this is a virtual machine where we have an OS as well, and that OS is Windows Server either 2016 2019, it's the same thing. So what happens is that there's a network card here, right? So suppose that's a network card, that's a NIC, phi NIC, a physical NIC. So what it's installing is here virtual switch. Suppose this is a virtual switch here, so it's a virtual switch. This is also called, what it installed here is actually external switch. It is also called external switch. An external switch is basically for the virtual machines that gets created, they need to not only talk to each other through the virtual switch, but they have to talk to the outside world as well. So in that case, there's a virtual switch needed. So what happens is that the virtual switch right now needs to connect to a physical network card, right? So that's what it's asking here. Let me check that. Okay, so there is this error showing for Hamid. So Hamid, this is yeah, so the processor option, you did not select that option that I selected. Let me show you. This error comes when we have not selected that processor option. Which option am I talking about? This one. So you have to shut down your machine, right click here, go to settings of the virtual machine, and then you have to go to processor. You have to make sure this option is selected, checked. Virtualize until VTX, EPT or AMD-VRVI. This is just called virtualization option. Okay, but you have to shut down your machine for that. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, guys. So, well, according to the diagram, this is the external virtual switch is trying to connect to the physical network card. So, what happens is when it does get connected. So suppose there's a set of virtual machines here, and those virtual machines will have their network cards as well, virtual NICs, right? So these virtual NICs will be connected with the virtual switch. So through this virtual switch, the virtual machines can communicate with each other as well over the network, over the virtual network inside the hypervisor, as well as through this physical network card to outside internet as well. This is what it's asking. So it's just saying that it's going to create a virtual switch with the help of virtual switch manager. So it says that, hey, do you want me to connect to this network card? So this is supposed to be the physical NIC or virtual NIC of any virtual machine or a physical machine. So I'm saying that yes, I'm connecting the virtual switch to this network card here. So the virtual machines that we're going to create inside the Hyper-V can communicate with each other and to the outside world as well, right? So this is the purpose of this screen here. I'll click next. And this is the screen where it says that if you want to migrate the virtual machine from one hypervisor to another hypervisor, then you can open this option. CURT SSP means that if you're connected directly to this machine, then you can initiate the migration of virtual machine from one hypervisor to another hypervisor. And Kerberos just means that you're remotely connecting to that hypervisor, Hyper-V, and then you're initiating that migration from one hypervisor to another. So we're not going to do any migrations on multiple Hyper-V, so I'm just going to click next. And this is just the local path of the virtual machine and the virtual disk. In Microsoft, the virtual hard disk is on a separate path, and Hyper-V virtual machines, the rest of the files are in a separate folder path. Next, yes, it's going to require a restart, so I'm just going to select the restart. Whenever it is done doing Hyper-V deployment, then go ahead and restart, and I'll press yes, and then install. So it automatically restarts, and it's a two-phased installation. So first phase is done already, and it's going to restart, and there's once it restarts and logs in again, so it will continue with the installation again of Hyper-V, but that would be very short remaining installation of Hyper-V. Okay, so I'll just log in again, and oops, password has been correctly placed. So it should continue with the Hyper-V installation. Normally it pops up. Yep, there you go. So it's going to finish. It's going to be very short. Once it finishes, then we're done with the Hyper-V installation. Okay, it's done for me, and I'll click close. So this is Hyper-V role that was installed, and if I go to tools, it shows the Hyper-V manager here as well. So we have reached till here, and so we're going to go with some detailed features of Hyper-V and a virtual machine in next class, and we'll start taking screenshots. So I will ask you to take screenshots of my screen. If you've reached here in the next class, then you can take screenshots of your screen as well. In that case, you need to put your name there. I'll also change that for next class, the name. So we'll start taking screenshots, and I will ask you to upload in next class when we go with all the features of Hyper-V and virtual machine, and hopefully we'll be going for the AWS as well. So, alright guys, if there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, reach till here. Those who want to follow with this and can follow in their virtual machines, then reach till here and in next. But when you go to AWS, then obviously everyone will have his or her own lab. Okay, so any questions? Otherwise, see you in next class. Today we don't upload anything. The video will be posted. Yeah, a video will be posted by tonight or by tomorrow. If it's not there, then on this group you can say, hey bro, where's the video? Right? Okay guys, so I'll just suspend the machine here, suspend guest. Alright, good night, bye, see you on Thursday. That's where we're having labs or screenshots. And okay, so stop.